So is Trump a pedo, right? I mean, his name is all over the Epstein files, which automatically means he obviously must be involved with all of it, correct? And then Tom Homan is one of the most amazing people that this administration has. And to be honest, I have a great story to tell about him, which I think will be a good for a Thursday. And then Cuba seems like it's about ready to fall. And there's a lot of factors that are playing into why that is probably the case. And then we're going to get into why it's just so mind-blowing, right, and mind-boggling on how bad Pam Bondi is at her job. And not only how bad, but how arrogant and absolutely useless she is. But on a good note, on the end of it, Charlie Puth a patriot? So you have I asked the question because most people in Hollywood, they're not really. But is he? We'll find out. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Ripple Effect. So to start off with, if you haven't, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel tremendously, and I would much appreciate it. But first off, for our nice Thursday here, and weird combinations Thursday, Tom Homan. So it's hard to just compare the two men between Bovino and Homan when he took over, because you couldn't ask for two different people. Homan is like so quiet and so steady and so staid, I guess the word would be, compared to Bovino, that he almost seemed kind of slow almost, but yet his temperament and his speech is so amazing when you compare it to his results. He's taking ICE out of Minnesota right now, and he's saying that his job is done, that he's accomplished what he wanted to get done, and he's on his way out. But on his way out, he couldn't even just leave it that way, right? He had to drop the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, and mention the fact that they had found and saved over 3,300 children or minors that were just released by the Biden administration, basically on their own recognizance. I mean, it was absolutely horrible what the Biden administration was doing, and it's extremely sad what probably happened to many, if not most, of these children as they're released to people with no requirement of information as to who they are, any proof of their relatives of any kind, and trafficking was just rampant through all of this. And the fact that they were able to get these kids, just it's good. It shows that America is healing. And part of this, too, is you got to understand who Homan is. When he had his confirmation hearing, I was reminded of the story that he tells about how they were shipping these children in shipping containers, and they were dying because of the heat. And he talks about how he didn't want his men to have to go through the nightmares and the horror of what taking those children out of that container, those dead children out of that container, would do. And so he took it upon himself to take them all out, and he bore that for his men. And it shows you that he has a love and a care for people in a way that I don't think Bovino had, and it was demonstrative in just their demeanors and everything about it. And it just shows you that this is the guy you want. This is the guy you want, and he's just so steadfast and steady and reliable. If you were going to have a press conference, I mean, he's better at it than just about anyone I've ever seen. Keeping it on point, on pace, not losing his temper. And it's just such an encouragement, honestly, to see such a good person in this area, right? Well, on the note of Cuba apparently had like 15 days left of oil. And that was at a much lower rate of oil because they knew they'd be doing rolling blackouts and that kind of thing than what they used to do, which they were already having rolling blackouts in the previous amounts that they were consumption that they were doing. And that 15 days has expired. So it literally is at any point now that Cuba will give up the ghost. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen there. It seems like Trump is trying to do some kind of negotiations with Cuba and try to keep not total regime change, because he knows that can be hard and dangerous to a country to have just like total chaos. And it's why you kind of see Venezuela being handled the way it is. But it definitely seems like it's going to be happening pretty soon. And we might see a free Cuba in our time, which is kind of wild considering it's been this way long before I was born. So, I mean, it's crazy. It is honestly, it's crazy what's happening when you just change the status quo around the world, honestly. And that's through Trump. Now, about Pam Bondi. So Pam, I have a little story for you, or not a story for you, but something to say to you. You are less charming and less effective at politics than the fictional Pam from The Office. That's how bad you are. Okay? And I hope you get that message, because you should. It was quite embarrassing watching all of your shenanigans when you were in Congress. How much of an embarrassment to the entire country just to have her up there performing. And this is the thing. I wrote it down because it was very important. The kind of stuff that she was pulling in Congress while she was there was literally like she was trying to appeal to the basest part of Trump. And we all know there's a part of Trump that we don't like. It's the bloviating, crazy part of Trump. And when Trump isn't doing that, he's a great guy, okay? Most people like him when he's not doing that kind of nonsense. But the crazy, stupid stuff that Trump likes, she was appealing to that, like the worstest, basest nature of him. And it was horrible. Watching her do this was absolutely garbage. She acted like a trash human being the whole time. And I understand she's the attorney general, and I understand you're supposed to respect people in politics or in positions of power, but she was ridiculous. And as a citizen, we get to criticize someone who's absolutely ridiculous, especially when they're on your side. And worse is the fact that she did none of her research, okay? Which, no shocker there, considering she released all the, quote, Epstein files to those people and handed them the binders and the binders on my desk and all the stupid things that she's done up to this point. She did not do any of her research. So she's really literally talking to a congresswoman and calling her anti-Semitic in the process, and not realizing that woman, her grandfather died in the Holocaust, which by dint of information would mean that she's part Jewish, and also mean that, yeah, you probably shouldn't have said that. Now, they're just like kids running around being stupid up there in Congress. So, I mean, it wasn't too horrible, but just the stupidity to not have done your research, right? And then she was flipping insults around with everyone like two children fighting in a playground. It was wild. They're like tussling back and forth. It was so embarrassing. Like, I mean, I get crazy on this show, and yet I'm not even, like, the stuff that she was throwing was just absolutely, absolutely embarrassing. And then worst of all, it lands with, she can't do her job. She can't release the files on properly in time. She's releasing stuff that she shouldn't release. I mean, she got called out on that by, what was his name? One of the congressmen. And just all kinds of horrible at her job. And then it comes out that even on top of all this and all the crazy rhetoric I had pointed out the other day when she talked about gun control, it was hate speech. In her file, that when you open it, in the file, it showed what internet searches that Congresswoman Jayapal, what's her first name? Pramila Jayapal, had searched on the internet specifically about the Epstein files. Meaning she had there the record of what Congresswoman Jayapal had searched in the Epstein files. Why? You're obviously not doing your research, so what is it, like opposition research? Like, what's going on here? Why are you interested in what Jayapal is searching in this public database? Pam, what are you thinking? And then to bring it in there, like what? You're going to accuse her of just, you were only searching certain parts of it. Like, it made no sense. Also, how do you have that information? Is that legal for you to have that information? Did you get a warrant for that? I mean, there's a lot of questions that are there. And again, I'm not a legal scholar, so maybe she did. I wouldn't know how she could get that warrant, but interesting. Now, in the topic that really is going to catch everyone's eye is Trump a pedo? Now, I'm asking this question because there's always this just accusation that you guys just voted for a pedo. You guys just support a pedo. That's who you guys are. You guys are not trustworthy. Where's your God? You don't, all that stuff, right? Because he's mentioned a lot in the Epstein files. And there's a lot of people that are mentioned in the Epstein files that have nothing to do with any of the shady stuff, the shenanigans that Epstein was getting into. But, I mean, Trump likes girls. I mean, not girls. No, see, I'm just ruining it. He likes women, like pretty women, right? We obviously know that. And obviously he must be caught up in the worst parts of Epstein if he knew him. I mean, obviously if he knew him and he was around him and he likes pretty women, obviously he must be involved with the worst of Epstein. But let's think about it. First off, we have recorded evidence, and I just want you to open your mind, guys. Don't. If you're not interested in listening, there's no point in me saying it, but just listen. We have recorded evidence that Trump did not like Epstein. He really did not like Epstein. Okay. We also know that there's recorded evidence that he talked to the police about Epstein and was very happy that they had caught him on the shenanigans, if you want to call it that Epstein was up to as soon as they began to investigate him. I mean, he was one of the first calls in to say, yes, this guy should be investigated, and what help do you need? He offered help as well. It's also recorded that Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Why? At the time when he did it, I mean, Epstein was pretty well still running around with everybody and still being somewhat well looked upon by everybody. Why would Trump kick him out of Mar-a-Lago unless he had a very big disagreement of types with him, so to speak? He didn't like the type of person that Epstein was. Well, why? Additionally, we also know that Jeffrey Epstein really, really, really hated Trump. And not even just that he hated Trump, but he was also trying to get dirt on Trump. He was trying to tear Trump down. He was like aiming for him, gunning for him, constantly trying to destroy him. And then if you add into the top of this that under Biden, they had access to all these they had access to all these Epstein files. And if they had anything on Trump, do you really think, just like think to yourselves, do you really think that if Biden DOJ had anything on Trump with regards to the Epstein files, they would not have brought it out in the campaign? What would be the point of not doing it? Like, honestly, I'm asking a legit question here. If there was evidence before he took over and could have cleaned it all up, right? Before he did that, if there was evidence in there under Biden, what would be the thought process for Biden to not release it? Honest question. I don't see that there is. So we do know that Epstein was a huge narcissist. So maybe he was just upset that Trump wouldn't play ball with him. And maybe he was upset that Trump really stood to his face and didn't like the junk that he was in. All those things are hypotheticals because we don't really know. But all we know is that there was no love lost between these two guys. And if there was evidence, I'm sure the Democrats would have brought it out by this point. And as a final thing, I watched the anthem sung by Charlie Puth in the Super Bowl. And it was actually really good. So Charlie Puth is an amazing musician. I don't really listen to his music, but he's an amazing musician. He has great pitch and all that kind of stuff. And there was something that was a tell at the end. He didn't try to butcher the anthem, which a lot of people try to butcher and all that crazy stuff. He didn't try to butcher it. At the end, the tell is when he finished it, you could finish singing. You could see this overwhelming gratitude fly over him as he's standing there in the biggest venue possible. And as the planes fly overhead with the red, white, and blue and all that. And you could just see him taking it all in and just so happy to be there and humbled by it too. You could tell he was humbled by it. And I get the impression that he might be a closet conservative. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying maybe he has some conservative tendencies because he seemed to enjoy the patriotism of it. He seemed to enjoy the humbling of it, that he got to do it. And you don't really see that too much in Democrats, unfortunately. So that's what I've got for you today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for coming out today on this Thursday, or not coming out, but watching my video. I appreciate it. Let's get out there and let's spread the word for as much as we can. And the news is not just for the sake of having news. It's for the sake of us learning to be armed and prepared for when we are questioned, asked about things that, maybe people want to try to trip us up, like, is Trump a pedo? Thank you so much.